So welcome everyone to the second episode of The Founder Story. And as your companies are growing, your organizations are growing, you're probably wondering the same. How can I ensure that we have the right culture in place, that we hire the right talent, that we retain them? That's what we're going to talk today.
Having a joint purpose, making clear what is the purpose of the company, is probably the most important pillar of the culture and one of the success factors for building a company culture where everybody puts in all his energy.
I'm not looking for employees.
Yeah, you said that. Yeah.
I'm looking for purpose companions. The purpose of a decentralized organization, of a kind of DAO-like organization for insurance, means it's decentralized. So I don't want to have a central large organization that at some point becomes like all those old, slow, traditional insurance companies.
Values is for me the key topic, so that those values fit together. And from that, you can start to create the trust, to create the different team spirit, and then have a common goal, and all that will nicely fit together. But it is less about what's the rucksack, what everybody brings with. It's more about, do they really fit together from a core value down to their deepest insights.
Thanks, everyone.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Founders Story Session 3. My name is Stéphanie Voigt. I'm a technical account manager for Google Cloud by day. And my dear colleagues from the Digital Natives team, I said, can you host our next panel? Because, you know, it's about money. It's about the fundraising. And I was like, oh, great. I'm getting that one. Sure, I'm in. Thank you so much. First of all, welcome again. And they told me, do not click on the next slide until you take a selfie, because it's a tradition we started. So I'm going to do that. I'm not very good at it, so bear with me. Yup. Everyone, smile. I'll take a few. Get all the good angles. There you go. Wave. Thank you. Wonderful. And back there. Ha. All right. I guess that's the most difficult part of the evening out of the way. No, in all seriousness, we want to start with a big, big thank you. We're here for the third time, but a few months ago, 3 to be exact, it was the first time. And for an event to start, there has to be an idea. And the Digital Natives team had the idea of, let's talk to some founders and co-founders and CEOs of startups, digital natives in Switzerland. They sat down with 14 of them and just asked one question. How are you doing? How can we help? And if there's something we can help with, how can we close that gap? And what emerged was that they really would like to see a platform, a community where founders can share their ups, their downs, their worries, their sorrows, their laughs, and learn from each other in a community. And with that, the Founder Story was born. From founders, for founders. So thank you so much for being here again, and to the new joiners, welcome, and growing this community. As you can see, we have a hashtag, the Founder Story GCP. So, you know, do what you do. TikTok, Instagram, tweet, go nuts, Snapchat, anything. We would love to see you share your impressions, your thoughts, your questions. Speaking of questions, sometimes questions pop into your head during a session, and you can really go, excuse me, can I just interrupt the panel and ask now? No, because there's a Q&A, but because we don't want you to forget that question, we would like to give you a moment right now, take out your phones, to scan the QR code on the screen, and then you can submit a question to our Q&A tool whenever it pops into your head. I'm just gonna let a few seconds pass, awkwardly stand here, smile. Hello, Rory. Thanks for being here today. And send just a tool, you submit your questions, and there will be a Q&A session at the end. Of course, if you don't have a question coming up in your head during the session and have an impromptu one at the end, we will also be going around the audience with a microphone. Lovely. Good. Everyone busy with their phones? Not anymore? Good, I have them all back. Digital native founders, such a really modern term. What is not modern is pain points. when you start a company. When they sat down with the founders and said, what are the main pain points? Essentially, 5 pillars emerged. The very first one was sales. I mean, of course, right? It's a hot topic, sales. It's the cool thing to do. But it's difficult. And what we learned from the really first session, when Hans moderated that one, was that don't invest in people who do exactly the same thing that you're good at. Hire people for their unique abilities. If you multiply yourself, you might be more productive first, but in the essence, in the end, it'll be a diminishing investment on return on investment. So that was a big takeaway. The second session, people, it got a little more difficult, hire, fire, right people, wrong people, etc. The main takeaway there was that do invest time to find the right person rather than get the wrong person at the beginning and have to invest a lot more later for the wrong reasons. With that, we arrived at session number 3, fundraising. Yeah. And when it comes to fundraising, I mean, there's a lot of buzzwords, right? Accelerators and seeds and angel investors and series A, B, C, D, E, F. No, I'm kidding. Not that many. But there's also one little word where a lot of us start with, and that's bootstrapping. And for that, I'm going to tell you a little story of my own. This is Freddie. Freddie was my succulent, which lived on my desk at a former job of mine. And just out of fun, I called him Freddie and put a Post-it on it. And the day we were made redundant, together with 30% of the company, so not just me, just claiming that, I took my plant with me, and people said, you know, it's so funny that that cactus has a name. It's a succulent, actually. And I lived in London at the time, was on the tube, on my way home, and I realized that the people around me started smiling at me because I had a plant with a name. And, you know, it was like goodbye leaving drinks, and funny ideas happen at cool moments, as, you know, a lot of founders know. And I said, hey, you know what? Maybe this is the thing. Maybe people will pay for a plant with a name, or if they can name it, or something like that. I don't know how many of you in the room know stone pet, the pet stone. Heard of it? In the US, it was a big thing. Somebody came up with it a year. If I'm just going to take a stone and package it nicely and sell it as a pet, like a low-maintenance pet. The person made $4 million with it in about 2 years. Investment, very low. Just go out, collect some stones. Anyways, what happens next, right? You draw some really bad logos. You mock up some packaging. You know, you learn how to Photoshop. And then product gets a bit more real. You order masses of little cacti in China. Back then, they shipped in time. And then you have a finished product where you design everything yourself. And it became a live cactus keyring. You could buy it for £9. And you had to put in water every few weeks. It would grow. You could open it, and then you could plant it. And the other product was the original idea of buy a succulent. It comes with its own adoption certificate. You can give it a name. It's just cute, you know, $12, or as they say in London, like for a tenner, a gift for a tenner, something around that. That was my little small business. Lasted for about a year. Paid a couple months of rent, maybe, you know, small investment. Had to shut it down, it's fine. But learned a lot. It was really fun. And I guess some of it got me a job at Google later, so I can't complain. This is an example of bootstrapping. We're not here for bootstrapping. We're here to talk about the big bucks. This is our founders lineup. It's been growing. It's now 17. And today, we are lucky that we have 2 founders and 1 extra special person. And we will start by welcoming Andrin von Rechenberg. He founded his company Andrin in 2015 with 9 FTEs and has over 10,000 developers creating gaming content for his main product, AirConsole, which brings casual gaming to your living room TV, essentially. And you can play it through your phone. You don't even need an extra console. Please welcome Andrin von Rechenberg. You join me on stage. Hello, good evening. Do have a seat. Good to have you. Next, This founder, his first business was selling self-made pizza. He was 8, and he had 2 KPIs. Nobody can land in the hospital, and everybody needs to be alive after consumption. He succeeded, because in 2019, he founded his company Helio, which enables customers to deploy workloads much faster and much cheaper on the cloud. Please welcome Kevin Häfeli. Hello, please do have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. I like that he brought the beer. Come on. So we have the founders here, but because we're talking about fundraising, we needed somebody who has the money and decides who gets it. And because of that, we've invited Head of Investment Michael Blank from Verve Capital, where he has led his team since 2014 and ensures a constant flow of high-quality investment opportunities. Please welcome Michael. Thank you so much. Have a seat. All right. Now, let's have a chat. Before the money comes the own money. The founder's story. Andrin, when you started, when you built your company, where did the initial cash from? Was it your piggy bank, bank of mom and dad, friends and family? How did you do it?
Well, usually it's called friends, families, and fools.
Perfect. Didn't want to say that, but yes.
I had the luck of having a startup before and still had some cash from the exit. But in the first company I had, it came directly from investors, actually.
Please do enlighten us. What was the first company you founded?
The first one was the very first dating app on mobile.
Ooh, fancy. What year was that? 2010, 11?
Right when the app stores came out, 2010, yes.
So you were an early adopter of the online dating community?
Absolutely.
Did you try it out yourself?
I already had a girlfriend back then, who is now today my wife, which
There you
doesn't
go.
speak for my product.
Proof of concept, not with yourself.
Exactly.
Okay.
And yeah, that was fun, but I quickly realized that it's going to be better to be integrated into a bigger company because you have to grow extremely fast. And so I did an exit after 2 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So going back to that very first experience, how did you go about funding that? Because you said you reused essentially your exit money to reinvest in your next company. So let's go back to the complete beginnings where, it has to come from somewhere.
Right. So I started actually by building a MVP. In both cases, actually. I built an MVP and went to raise money with the MVP. I thought it's important that I not only get friends and family, but also real investors, because you can convince friends and family easier, and they they want to do something good for you, but you should also test the market in the VC section. And so I wanted to always have true funding too. And that's why I did it that way. And with an MVP, not just a paper tiger, I think that's super cool because you can show, you can make it work, even if it's just something super simple and minimal. Exactly. But it shows that you have a doer attitude and you can do something.
And how did that go?
That went really well. So my current startup, AirConsole, is a gaming platform, right? So basically, we needed capital to build a gaming platform. That was very clear because you have to buy expertise and you have to buy speed, right? With capital comes speed. You can hire a team. If you build everything yourself, you're just going to be too slow. So we were able to start with a team and buy gaming expertise too, and start bootstrapping the developer community and buy some first content. So that was extremely important that we had capital quickly.
Right. So what I'm hearing is your advice is, as you say, if you have the right friends and family, it might be easier to get those assets, but to really test the waters, it has to come from external. Well, does it mean more?
Yeah, well, I think if you're not able to build an MVP or a demo of the product, then friends and family might be a very good idea to get there, right? But you usually don't need that much money. I see startups always creating way too big MVPs, right? With all the features that are not needed. You don't need much to test the concept.
So you went more along the lines of keep it simple,
keep it
but
simple,
make it functional.
prove it, and then raise money.
Wonderful. How was it for you? with Helio?
Yeah, for me it was a bit different. Was completely broke. Had maybe $5,000 on my bank account, and I thought, yeah, what should I do with that? Living in Zurich, yeah.
Like what? 4 dinners and.
Yeah, maybe go out once. So yeah, I took my co-founder Christoph, and we went to Asia for 4 months, hacked together the MVP, and proved what we're doing today in a very, very simple way. And then came back. We had some friends who are basically in Berlin, very active as angel investors. They said, okay, when you come back, we will provide you the money basically when you have proven that it's working and everything, validated a bit the market and everything around that.
So
then, yeah.
That is a great segue. You said you came back and you, through friends, you essentially gained access to angel investors. What did you immediately have that, or did you have to go through a few other ideas on where do we even start with the fundraising process, right? So you came from a different position. You didn't have exit money from a first exit. Yep. So you said, we have friends, we're lucky. Did you look at other opportunities as well? Anybody think of going on like Dragon's Den or Shark Tank or what they're called? They did exist.
Yeah, well, we don't have a B2C product, so probably Shark Tank wouldn't be the best, but no. No, it was a comfortable situation. They helped us with fundraising. They had a bit of a network with other angel investors, so they could provide the first check around 100K for funding AG here in Switzerland. So yeah, that's okay. And from there, we were basically more or less clueless because we don't have a network of high worth, net worth individuals and so on. So we had to build that up, and in between, we bridged it with friends and family.
All right. So also a type of bootstrapping in fundraising.
Yeah,
in that
definitely.
sense.
Yeah, and now our cap table is a mess, but
all right.
Yeah. And that also comes with some unpleasant things like doing convertibles or convertible loans over 40 investors over 2 years and then convert them, and then having different valuations and different terms in it piled up. Yeah, I wouldn't do that anymore, but it was our
So in
only
hindsight, what would you change about the approach with the knowledge you have today?
Yeah, I would find someone rich who invests the first check.
Fair point. I mean, people are smiling, but I'm sure he's not the only one who was thinking about that. So yeah, because if you did have the knowledge but not the cash, as previously, you would pursue other avenues. In all seriousness, apart from finding somebody rich.
Maybe I would try something like Y Combinator or an accelerator, maybe, but not 100% sure about that because it comes also with some downsides.
Speaking of that, where do you think, from your experience, because I'm sure you know people who've gone to it, and what you see from a different perspective, what are currently the say biggest strong points and the biggest low points of going through an accelerator, which mostly gives you a year access to certain overheads and everything?
I would say so we went through an accelerator program later on.
Okay.
And the biggest downside is basically you give away a lot of equity.
Yep.
So that's definitely, if the accelerator is good and they have a good network, they can introduce you to angel investors, can help you build this network there during the accelerator. That's definitely something good. And usually, it helps a bit with the standard things, how to build a startup and so on. But from our perspective, we went through that already before with our friends, and they built 20 startups already, so in total. And for that, it wasn't that helpful, but definitely for first-time founders, also nice value add, I think.
Okay. Andrin, which avenue did you pursue? Because you said you built the MVP, you went for it, but when you sat down, and I'm going to ask again, your first experience, and then the second experience where you come in with essentially more batting power, how did you go about, for people who have never done it maybe, right? How did you go about deciding on who do I approach for fundraising? How do I go about it? Where do I knock on the door? And what's ultimate what I want to get out of it?
That's a very good question. I think everybody thinks that it's a walled garden, right? There is this community of VCs somewhere, and they're super secret.
It's one big club.
Exactly, exactly. And how do I get my entry ticket? But there's a lot of startup events around Zurich, for example. And I mean, the VCs have the same problem, right? They want to find the cool new things. So they're out there. They're also looking for you as a founder. So the more you go and network and go to these events, you really start to meet people, and you have to ask for help. You have to ask fellow founders, hey, where did you get contact to a VC? Do you know somebody? And if you ask, people are really helpful, actually.
So essentially, get out there, network, ask anyone you meet, and the contacts and opportunities will follow the channels. Right. Well, I'm looking at Michael over there. He's smiling, and he goes like, "Oh yeah, I'm out there hunting. We're out there hunting." Ever thought about the dating platform for founders versus VC? Find them, match them. It sounds like a real opportunity. No, in all seriousness, Michael. So you're on the other side, right? You have founders and startups knocking at your door, or you see them. What does your day look like when it comes to that?
That's a good question. It's quite interesting because I have the pleasure to talk to many of these gentlemen. This really, really nice, like great ideas out there and super exciting visions, what they want to build. So it's really a lot about networking, about meeting people, about reading business plans and getting an understanding of what's happening out there, what is the next trend. So it's really a lot of people business, talking to founders, talking to market experts, doing research about understanding what's happening out there. But in the end, it's also a lot about that's one part. But once you found kind of like an interesting startup or a founding team where you say, this could be something, everything looks promising, then it's also really to get to know the people. Like you meet them quite often. You try to, you start engaging more intensively. You talk to potential clients that you know. Would they use this product? Do they believe in that? You talk to the founders. Can you introduce me to one or two of your clients? Can we talk to them? What do they like about the product, about the team? You listen to the feedback. So it's on the one hand side a lot of sourcing, screening, but then also like in-depth research once you have some kind of startups where you really go deeper into the due diligence. And then there's a huge part after the investment actually. Like once you provided the investment, then there's a lot of collaboration with the startup and making sure that the milestones that have been promised, that we all believed in, that we would like to reach, we're all sitting in the same boat at that moment, right? That the startup is really developing into that direction that we all want. So less than half of the job is actually the investment. The really hard work is then afterwards together with the founders to really grow the business and to make it a success. And I can honestly say all different parts are extremely exciting, and it's really nice, and I love doing that.
You look very excited about it. What I'm picking out is there's a lot of research in the beginning. If you would have to venture a guess, how many business plans have you read over the past 10 years?
Oh my God. So we're looking at over 6,000 companies a year only at Verve. So over the last 8 years, I would say 1,500, something like that.
So in those thousands, obviously there might be products where you say like, this product sounds amazing, but there's the human factor. And then how do you stay very neutral, where you say like, maybe the person, the founder, is not right up my alley, but it makes sense, and the product is amazing, and I'm investing. How do you differentiate between not just going for the founder, or not just going for the product, or not just going for the potential, but the right mix?
Yeah, in the end, you don't stay neutral. I mean, in the end, you need to be excited. You need to believe in the vision, and you need to. And the founder also wants to see your excitement. Like the founders, they want to partner with investors who believe into the vision, and they want to see investors who believe in that, and they're not kind of like bank accountants who say, well, this makes sense on the balance sheet. They really want to have people on the cap table who believe in them and support them, because this whole startup journey is never kind of like an objective thing. It's always you need to believe in that. So I think that's extremely important. So you're not neutral. You try to balance kind of like in the end risk and reward, and there you can be neutral, and there you have to be neutral. And this is also where I think you can bring in experience as an investor based on your portfolio, based on what you've seen, based on how many startups you have been part of the growth journey. And I think this is a huge part of the evaluation. Is kind of like the first part is this: are we excited about this? Like, do we believe in this vision? We have a thesis on the market, on what's happening there. does this match what the founders also believe in? And if this match is there, then this is the first good sign. If this is not there, it will never work out anyway. So we should stop. So if our thesis and the vision of the founders are the same and match, then we can move on. And then the next step is kind of like, and there it becomes more neutral, as a bit like a risk-reward analysis. Because in the end, it's an investment for us, for the investors behind us. It's not my money, it's the investors I represent as well at Verve. So what we need to do is we need to look at, okay, so if this vision happens, what is the end game? Like, how big can this be in terms of numbers? And there's some who can be really huge, and some others where we also have to say, well, even in the best game, this is just this number. So taking this whole risk, and in the end, this is the maximum that can come out, I'm not so sure. I'm not sure if I want to do that. So understanding the reward that can happen, and then understanding the risk that lies on the way to actually get there. And the assessment of this risk is only, or the best is if you can really understand, or you have your own prediction of what this startup, what the founders need to achieve in order to get there. And this is then when you start to discuss, and where you say, look, the next milestone, the next value inflection point for you is getting one lighthouse customer in the US, getting A, B, and C. And if the founders say, no, definitely not, don't agree, then you get into this personality part where you say, I'm not sure if I want to work with this person, or like if that works long term. And then the dialogue starts. And
I'm going to jump in there on the personality part. Obviously, it's also the same for you. You go for a fundraiser, you meet a VC. Have you had a point where you go like, this is not a match for us? We walk away. Or how much does the money weigh in, excuse me, versus the need for the money versus the dare, the courage to walk away if you feel it's not the right fit?
I think it really depends on how full the round already is. Do you have a lead investor? Do you not? If you have a lead, you should before you have to choose the right lead, right? If you have the good lead investor, the rest is going to be much easier. And I think that's probably the most important first decision to make. And then you fill it, and if you have the luxury to choose, then you choose, obviously. Sometimes the lead says we need, I don't know, we make a 4 million round. We sign, if we get 4 million, we bring 1. And then if you need to fill up the round, and then you don't have that much choice. In our case, we usually have a bit of choice, and that's good. But I thought what was really interesting is what you said when you were talking about that you have to evaluate how it's going and so on and so forth. And I think that had a lot to do with when we approach investors, it's all about, for us, or for me, it's all about storytelling, right? Yeah. You have to tell a good story that they can verify. But in the end, when they verify the story, they need to say, okay, how big could this story be, right? Yeah. What's the max? And if you tell a good story, it needs to be realistic because you have to deliver on it. But it's really, really about storytelling. And when you do that, you quickly realize which investors are more interesting, and also which investors can bring you further on that journey. Absolutely. And the choice should be on that. Yeah.
So as I said, there's always a choice, as you say, on both sides. Where would you walk away?
Yeah, it depends. When it doesn't click with the investor, he never tried the product or whatever. I think that's a red flag, and then probably would walk away. But it depends. When our runway is 1 month and we need this lead and they will provide a term sheet, I would have some interesting discussions on the board.
Tough choice sometimes. Yeah. Michael, when you have founders knocking at your door, do you see a trend on a point in time in their journey when they mostly come for the VC money?
Unfortunately not, because I think that's also perhaps the tip or something for the audience or for other founders, especially at the very early stage, because we already heard, like from the previous introductions there, that there's different kind of investors out there, and they are also matched more or less to different stage of the company. So we heard about friends, family, fools. We heard about angel investors. There's VCs out there, and I think one of the biggest mistakes you can make as an entrepreneur is like just going out and just talk to everybody, because if somebody without an MVP is coming, for example, to us, there's 0.000 chance that we will ever invest. So this is just wasted time for the entrepreneur and for us. So one really advice, and you would always do this. You do this in sales. You do this always in your life. You first get kind of like an overview what's out there and who is looking for what. And I think that's very important that the founders really understand who are they talking to. And it's not that difficult. I mean, most investors are very proud of their portfolio, so they show actually where did they invest, what kind of companies do they support, are they in the health and bio field, are they in the digital field, where are they? So like doing a bit of research and thinking about where am I in the current stage. Like, am I still developing an MVP? Am I still in the product development? Am I in the go-to-market, like market testing? Or am I in the aggressive capturing market, we need to conquer the world moment? Because then I need shitload of money and I need a big international brand. And so I need to really think about what do I need, where am I, and who is the best fit for myself.
Have you had people come back?
Yes.
You said it's too early?
Yes.
Do this, come back in half a year?
Absolutely.
So you're nice like that?
Yes.
It's good to know. Verve Capital, remember that. Lovely. I have another question. This might be more of a challenger one. Almost every founder, or at least the ones I have met over the past 15 years or so, there's a breaking point at some point. There's the moment you want to throw in the towel, or there's tears, there's anger, and often it kind of coincides with when the money topic becomes more and more important. Question one, have you had it happen? And two, would you be willing to share? Especially what happened, why did you get there, and how did you recover from it? How did you improve on it?
So I made the mistake of being a single founder twice. It's something that I cannot necessarily
We have a whole room
recommend.
full of people. Maybe you find friends. for the
Exactly.
third
I
time.
have a fantastic sparring partner now who took over the company as CEO. So, but if you're a single founder, that is, I guess, even tougher. For me, it was more with legal issues, actually. One of the stories that was definitely a low point was we were developing a game for our platform, and we outsourced that development. And obviously, you cannot copy, for example, Tetris one-to-one and call it Tetris. That would be copyright infringement. However, you cannot protect or patent game mechanics. So you can be inspired. Maybe the Tetris pieces have to have a different shape, or the game mechanic needs to be a bit different. So we created a very cool game, a runner or a platformer. It was really cool, and we launched it. And it was inspired by another game that we never really looked at it, but the studio that we gave the mandate to basically copied it one-to-one. And obviously, that was a problem. It was the similarities were just too big, so we took it down. But it caused a big shitstorm, and that was really tough because it wasn't really our fault. We mandated them to create that game, and we took the game down. But we were the ones getting the lot of pressure, and it obviously was a big investment for us, and we were still quite young, so that was tough. And it's good to have a strong team, be it co-founders or the leadership or the whole team, actually the whole company supporting and standing together.
Main lesson learned from that?
Well, obviously copyright infringement, a lot learned there. But I think the main lesson learned was that everything passes. Looking back, I haven't thought about this incident since years now.
Along the lines of what doesn't kill you make you stronger,
Exactly.
and you're going. Any terrible moments?
Yeah, well, I think it has to do with fundraising. So we got kind of a term sheet, got the money basically not signed yet, but then at the last moment, we had the lead and the co-investor. Last moment, they pulled the term sheet, and because they couldn't wire the money somehow, I don't know. And then, you planned for that. You have your runway for 1-2 months, maybe, which isn't a good position to be in. Maybe you should have a bit more runway. That's definitely also a learning. But then what are you doing? Starting the fundraising process again takes 2 months, 3 months, and then the whole house of cards is breaking together, and then you're sitting there and have a luckily I have a good co-founder, a very nice friend of mine, and then we can talk through such things and also our advisory board. But
So after knocking on doors, going through the matching of founders and VC, getting that fundraising, also knowing when to walk away, learning from mistakes. When you've gone through it all, or at least for your first series or second series, then you reach a new level. And where you are at today with your respective startups, what's next? What's the next big step you will take, maybe in regards to another fundraising or even an exit strategy, a plan? And if yours doesn't align with the one from your co-founder, how would you deal with that? Thoughts for the future?
So in German, there's a good saying in soccer called nach dem Spiel ist vor dem Spiel.
Football. Not so.
Okay, sorry. Not US English. Okay. And that's so after the game is before the game, right? And I think that's very relevant for fundraising. You have to deliver on what you agreed. You have to make sure that, you raise with a plan in mind. So you better follow this plan as long as it makes sense, obviously. But you also need to keep the investors close. The relationship needs to be very good. We do a monthly update, like a little magazine that we send out every month, and you need to keep them close. And the round that you just finished also had to be fair. If you have too high valuations, then the next time you're gonna have to make a down route. It's not gonna work, right? And or if you had very founder or investor friendly terms, then the next investor is gonna be like, ooh, that's a red flag here. Yeah. So you never can just steal money and run. So it's very important that you think about the nature of raising, and then selling or whatever the goal is. And of course, you have to adapt on the journey, but if you keep your investors close, I think it's much easier to do so.
I think that's nice. Keep your investors close, like keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, but I don't think that's the same thing. Kevin, where are you at currently with your startup?
Right now, definitely next is closing our round. It's the worst time now, basically, but we got some commitments, and so that's very positive and looking forward to that. And then from there on, start building or scaling. Yeah. And, we're excited about that. And on the way, we also discussed kind of potential other fundraising options here in Switzerland. So we also applied, for example, for Technology Fund, which is a loan for startups who reduce carbon emissions. And that's also something we are currently at, and some Horizon grants and so on. So to scale the company there. And
lovely. Well, good luck with the closing round.
Yeah, thanks.
We hope that goes through well. Michael, obviously the last couple years with the pandemic, crazy. And now looking forward the next couple of years, how has the VC landscape changed, if it has? And where do you see, the next big steps on what is coming for the Swiss industry?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question for the current situation in the market. So I think there has been a huge change over the last 4 to 6 months, I would say. Doing this panel like 10 months ago, I think there would have been some different answers and different description to the market situation. So during the pandemic, actually, the market exploded. Like there's never been so much money there. Large US investors entered the European market like it was a feast, you could almost say. Like it was, and the startups did right. So they took as much money as they could because it was there. And now this changed. This changed quite heavily. We see it like from the stock markets. Now it's going down from the later stage markets down to the early stage where we now slowly arrive. So that there's less money available. We are at very high valuations. Andrin already mentioned kind of like follow-on rounds to higher valuation. You have a lot attached to the share price, like employee shares that depend on that. Like the investors need to provide to their investors kind of like an uptick in the valuation. So a lot is attached to the share price. We had very high valuation with huge amounts of money raised, very high cost with many startups, and we see now less money available and suddenly a bit of panic in the market. And some things are already changing. Some larger companies are laying off some people. So I think we go back. I don't think it's a bubble. I really don't think so, because there was a lot of really good value, underlying value there, really good startups with very good innovation. But we were probably a bit overheated, and we're going back a bit to a normal state. And I think the next 6 months, at least 6 to 10 months, will be not the easiest ones for startups in the fundraising mode, because all the investors are a bit more restrictive and looking not only on growth rates anymore, but really also more on margins and kind of like cost structures of the startups.
Thank you so much for sharing that so openly. I think that's really helpful, also for the bigger community to hear. Somebody who has a lot of experience with various steps in careers and change is our next guest, who will join us on stage. From starting as a lawyer, IP lawyer, then having a stellar career with banking at Julius Baer, founding his own startup and successfully exiting Numo, which was a financial management platform that enabled people to manage, maintain, and grow their financial health themselves, to being the newly appointed managing director of Google Cloud Switzerland and Austria. Please do welcome Roy Tavor on stage with us from Google. Hello. I'm going to shake your hand. Yeah. Do have a seat.
Good. Hello.
Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today. I know you have had a couple very busy weeks in your new role. You joined Google about 6 months ago and have now received the new role. I'm going to click here so people know the name again. There we go. Roy, you've just heard a few great stories and insight, and they shared. From your experience on what you went through, where do you see opportunities and challenges, maybe also specifically for the Swiss market, with your international experience when it comes to the digital native and especially startup scene?
Thank you, Stephanie. It's a pleasure being with you. Listening to the three of you took me back to many sleepless nights when I had to fundraise, and it sucks. So I know the feeling. But ultimately, fundraising is sales, and you have to be very, very focused when you talk to investors about your vision, about your team, and when you want to achieve what milestones are critical for your company. So, and I think for everyone who wants to branch out and start something, it takes a lot of courage. And honestly, we had no idea what we were doing. So, looking back, there's so many things we could have done better and faster. The good thing is the experience in fundraising really helped me to invest in startups. So, and nowadays, I don't need lots of pitches. I don't need slides. I have a conversation with the founder, like 20 minutes, and I know whether I want to invest or no. So it's all about sales. I'll tell you a little bit about how we did it. So I was lucky. I had a large network of very wealthy people that trusted me, that knew me. Personally, it has nothing to do with Michael. I don't like VCs. They are a pain in the neck. So my suggestion, if you can avoid VCs, avoid them. We were lucky. For a long time, we were able to avoid them. It's just too much work, It's a lot of discussions and, show me this business plan and this business plan. At the end, we want to deliver for the customer, and that's the main focus, right? So we were lucky. We had a lot of wealthy friends. And we grew very, very quickly. The one big challenge was we were in Switzerland, but covering the US market.
Yes.
This is something that my experience shaped me a lot. Swiss VCs or investors are typically not that comfortable to invest in a product that is launched in the US. It was a B2C product. And likewise, Americans will not easily look at a Swiss company. So very often you will be in a position where you need to change your governance, your structure from a Swiss entity maybe to a US holding. So that was all fun and games. I'm a lawyer, so I enjoyed it. So we grew a lot. We had deals with Visa. So I loved it because we learned a lot. I think we were on the right track. But also in fundraising, and Michael said that, there's waves, and you need to understand in what wave you are. So when we founded, the entire market, when we talked about financial services, was about data aggregation, personalization, customization. Everybody was in that space, and we got in. One of our competitors got sold to Goldman for a lot of money, so we were in that space. Probably we were a year or two too late, because then the incumbents, they don't sleep. They come extremely fast, and you need to be aware of that. So those waves, today it's the NFTs and metaverse, and then, you know, a little bit before it was ICO and all, initial coin offering, exactly. That's all gone, so you have to be mindful of that. I'll pause now.
Thank you so much. You already took up the topic of my next question, the resemblance between the Swiss market, the US market. You have experience in both. Where do you see the biggest differences when it comes to fundraising, when it comes to the startup scene? And would you have any advice for people for founders who would say, like, do I take my company overseas?
Look, the one thing that I will say, you have to plan for scale. If you don't plan for scale, at one point, people will stop giving you money. And we saw that also right when COVID hit with companies that had scale, but no clear monetization strategy. So the number of potential customers, I'm talking now B2C, in Switzerland is extremely limited. So you just have to be aware of that. And when I look at companies today, some are friends of mine, right? Neobanks that operate in Switzerland entirely. There's big red flags and question marks. What exactly is your strategy? What is your end game? Because even if you have 100,000 customers, how are you going to monetize them? So giving somebody a free product, that's wonderful. But how you make it a business, that's a different story. The US, for us, was a natural move because I knew the US, I lived in the US. It's a big market. So that's one big difference in terms of market and segmentation.
Lovely. Thank you so much for that insight. I think we've heard a lot about, you know, the pre-funding stages, the journey to the fundraising, also the new stages you then reach, and the comparison and experiences from somebody who's a couple years ahead. I would love to hear from the audience. Let's open up the Q&A. Dori from submitted questions.
So we've had a small technical issue.
Oh.
Dori, but feel free to just ask a question. We've got a mic.
All right. So disregard everything I said at the beginning with the Q&A tool. We're going the old-fashioned way. If you did try to submit a question and remember it, please ask it now. Just raise your hand. We'll give you the mic. And if you can think about questions now, the stage is now yours. Yes, please, in the back.
You two mentioned kind of the butcher cap table. How is your view when it comes to syndicates, specifically in Switzerland? Do you like it as founders? Do you have a take on that?
Right. Well, yeah, I like it. I mean, it makes it easier if someone is managing your relationship, and then, yeah.
Steal a mic. Oh yeah, the cube. Sorry, we needed a microphone.
Should I repeat the question, or
if you can?
Okay?
Maybe not everyone heard it in the back.
The question was, what's our view on syndicates of angels? Yeah, is it a good thing or bad? And
all right,
I would say yes, it's a good thing. Makes it easier. The cap table is smaller. We solved it kind of with proxies, but still in Switzerland, you need to go with a capital increase of converting our convertible loans, and then for the capital increase you need the physical signature of every investor, and that's just a pain. And I had 40 investors all over Europe, somewhere in India because vacation and so on, and we needed to close that and yeah, have fun. So syndicates are a good thing.
Other comments on the same question?
We don't have any syndicates at this point. We were dealing with one, and then in our second last financial round, and then the thing was, they are not the decision makers when it comes to, they have a minimum probably, right? So you need to reach that minimum, and they don't know if they will until their LPs or members of their syndicate have given the green light. So you do the whole DD with them, the whole due diligence with them, but you never know. You can never look them in the eye and read them because they don't know themselves.
Right.
And then so last time it didn't work out with the syndicate, but some of the members of that syndicates became then direct investors. So the cause was not lost in that sense.
Thank you.
Can I add something on that? Because
Please do.
I don't know who knows Verve Ventures actually, because one of our key USPs of what we're enabling is basically enabling private investors to invest into startups directly. And obviously this would bring us exactly into that situation that we have kind of like 20, 30 private investors, very good individuals, interested in the startup, but then having all of them on the cap table on early stage can be a problem. So we're also building syndicates all the time. So basically we bring all the investors together with the beauty for the startup, the founders, so they know who's in there, so they can actually leverage the networks and the angels. But we manage basically the pool like a normal fund ticket, so they can also only talk to me if they want, the founders, and don't need to. So for me, a syndicate is actually quite a nice thing because you can leverage individual people and networks, but you have the efficiency of a good cap table at the same time.
Thanks so much for sharing that.
Maybe to add quickly, if you can raise money, just raise. I think that's the most important at the end. Yeah.
Other questions in the audience? No? Yes, here in the front.
So my question is for you, Roy. You told us you had implemented an B2C product. Can you tell us what exactly it was and how you came up with this idea and what the founder story was? I'm really interested, really curious.
Sure. Thank you for the question. So it was B2C, and I came from Julius Baer, and one of the major issues in the financial industry across the globe, except maybe Asia, is really getting a holistic view over your financial life. Now, in Switzerland, it's a little bit less because typically people have one bank account and maybe a second one, but in the US, it's all over the place. So people have a brokerage account and a Roth IRA and a checking account and so forth. So we did data aggregation, so consolidating all of your finances in one place. And on top of that, we started to commercialize products and services because suddenly you have 100% view of customers. You know exactly what they do in their life. So, and on that you can give products and services, and it was really a bomb. I mean, it worked because I'll give you an example. So you have a user, he or she goes to Pizza Hut 3 times. After the 3 times, we use big data, analytics, all of that. Google Cloud sells that also. And then the 4th time, you get a notification, eat your next pizza for free. And when people don't have money, because at the end of the month it runs out, that is lifesaver. And in the US, 80% of the people don't have money at the end of the month. So this is what we did. It was not novel in that sense. It was not unique. What we did extremely well was low cost of customer acquisition. So we found a way to get extremely quick new users. The one thing which we were planning to do later is heavy monetization, and we never got to that because, again, when Google Pay introduced it, they had day one 100 million users. There was no way you can compete with that. I hope it answers.
Follow-up questions? They're all very happy with all the information they heard?
No, I don't know. You know, fundraising really, it's like it's a
right?
downer. You know,
it's
I mean,
it's a tough topic.
when your firm when it works well, you know, it's all fun. And when you said it before, you know, before or after is before. You know, it never stops. And when you are responsible for your employees, that the salary is paid at the end of the month, it's sleepless nights. So it's not a fun topic. I mean, I enjoy it, again, because it's sales, and I love sales, but it is hard.
And not only that, but I mean, I don't know, I think in my life I did 6 financial rounds. And what I really learned is that it's not done until the money's in the bank account. I mean, everybody knows that, but everybody can tell a story of, I also had a one with 2 weeks before, lead investor, the only one joining 2 weeks before, didn't happen, right?
Yeah.
And it just, you always have to stay positive and think you're on a good track. And obviously when you're filling a round, you have to share that you're filling the round and we're making good progress, because the lead will ask, are you making, yes, we are. But it really is only done when the money is in the bank account.
Hey, I have to say something positive. I mean,
Let's end on a high note, please.
I mean, people will go out here and say we bootstrap until the end. If you can do it, I can also say you don't need VCs to be happy. But no, I mean, you can also see fundraising. I mean, you have 2 ways to open up your company to get in talents and great addition. One is you hire people. This is kind of like your employees. And then another option is actually getting people kind of like an investor on board onto a cap table. And this is actually a very strong commitment, because this person sits really with you in the same boat. They cannot leave the boat without losing money, so they're stuck in this boat with you. And if this person is great, if you believe in this person, actually fundraising is a great opportunity to actually open your company for great support, for great experience, and somebody who can really bring you forward. So not only see the negative points, but I think it's really an opportunity.
Yeah, and I also want to say about VCs, I am not against VCs at all. I actually do like them, because and some of them don't do anything, and that's the worst. Or if they ask for reports, that's the worst. But a lot of them are also enablers. And that is very valuable. That can be very, very valuable. But if you choose a VC, make sure that you understand what they really offer, because everybody says we're more than money. Then ask them what it really is. Talk to a couple of portfolio companies, and then you'll quickly realize that some of them are really worth something.
It's quite funny, because what's your USP as a VC? They always say, yeah, what's your USP as a startup, but what's your USP as a VC? And all the websites looking the same, and we provide money.
Yes, but I want to say something to Michael's point, and I do agree. All of the investors, even though at the end we closed it down, they're good friends. So I think that is very true, because you are in the same boat, and mitgefangen, mitgehangen, as they say in German, and that is very valuable. So if you bring that expertise and that commitment in, that is a big shoulder to lean on as a founder, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone. I'm going to start closing the session here. I would like to first thank all our panelists for sharing so openly and candidly. Thank you.
Thank you.
And after such a lovely closing, I do feel that matching, dating VC founders startup might still be something that we could think of in the future. We would also like to thank the audience for being here and for the great questions. We'll continue the part with an apéro, where you are free to ask more questions, maybe private questions you didn't want to ask in front of the whole audience. Once again, thank you so much. We are going on a summer break with the Founder's Story, and we would love to hear your feedback for today. Again, our hashtag is the Founder Story GCP. We are going on a summer break. We'll be back in September with the next session. And with that, we wish you a lovely, warm summer, great vacation if you go on one. And do join us next time. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.